Thank you for joining me, fellow Guardians. This is Sam from Multiverse Mission Control, and today I've got another update for the channel. And yeah, I know, I did one just 2 days ago, I know, but I didn't plan it this way. In my defense, that one was recorded a while ago, and the need to get it out was not super urgent, whereas this one is going to have more proximal impact on the channel's future, and I am actually recording it the day before. That's the distinction. Anywho, I've got 2 items to address regarding changes for the channel, and if this update ends up being the only video that goes out today, I do apologize. That is actually part of the subject matter of item 1. So I've spoken to a few of you about this, but I was arranging my schedule for the coming of Middle-earth: Shadow of War, and I regret to tell you that I can no longer proceed with that series. I had everything organized just so, and then the thought, inescapable, popped into my head. What did Jim Sterling have to say about it this time? You see, Jim Sterling is this video game journalist guy, runs a talk show called The Jimquisition, and he was the source from whom I found out the review copy shadiness that was going on in the previous title, Shadow of Mordor. For those of you who don't know, either the devs or the publishers gave out review copies to certain YouTubers, but made them sign like this mile-long list not to show off any glitches and to stay positive the whole time. And that almost made me ignore the game entirely until it surfaced that it was actually pretty good. The way I saw it, while boneheaded, the only way that would have actually wronged someone was if it was the usual, let's hype the game up and then put in the least obligatory amount of effort into it kind of bullshit that the game industry is wont to do. And that's the kind of thing that can lead players to overpay for mediocre or just plain bad experiences. So when I saw how carefully everything was constructed, how, you felt the love. At least someone on the project had a lot of love for the game. So I was willing to overlook it at the time. But I did say, very first episode, that if they ever did anything like this again, I would boycott them. Because you have to put your foot down about what should be acceptable consumer-friendly practices. So, chronic worrywart that I am, I had to be sure that I wasn't going to be making the wrong decision by supporting the series. And boy howdy, my heart just broke because Jim ripped them an absolute new one, and for good reason. You see, Warner Bros. Has Shadow of War doing loot boxes. Wait, you mean like Overwatch? No. You see, I do go back and forth on Overwatch because loot boxes are essentially gambling, randomized reward and payout after all, and the option to pay with real-world money is kinda sketchy. But their rewards are things like costumes, funny voice lines, poses, and the likes, like purely cosmetic. And even if you don't get what you want right away, you can often gather up enough in-game currency to get it eventually. And I must admit, being able to win such with skill makes getting a good box after a hearty brawl pretty damn satisfying. And there's also the argument to be made that supporting the devs this way gives them the wherewithal to continue updating the game with new events and content. But the point is, bottom line, Overwatch would never put an item in a box that would give you an advantage over the game or over other players. And there's the rub. Shadow of War is putting up rewards that make you stronger in-game, in a randomized setting. They're combining pay-to-win mechanics with loot boxes. They're merging the allure of gambling with the gradually deceptive and at times predatory nature that pervades many free-to-play games. And this is for a fixed, single-player campaign that is never going to change. Even if it does later on, it's going to be disingenuous. That's not what they planned. Then they added on a player-versus-player aspect to it as if that would make it better, but in truth, anyone who sank $100 at launch may be able to roll anyone they come across. They've made the argument that you can win it all in-game, but they're still going to make it as tantalizing as possible. Still going to try to shake you for change even after you've already paid full price. I delayed so long on bringing the hammer down because I actually hoped they'd recant. You see, they had just got done with another CD dealing, although the fact that they even had another. Anyway, where they put on this DLC, an ostensible tribute to one of their staff who died to cancer, but the money that was supposed to go to his family ended up going to the company, more often than not, and after the outcry, they refunded everyone and they made the DLC free, so I kind of naively thought they could learn. Instead, they doubled down and shoved even the bloody true ending to the game in one of the freaking loot boxes. That's supposed to be hours of investment paying off, not shelling out extra cash for what should have been included in the first place. You see, ultimately, this isn't even a problem that's going to affect me personally. If I were to get the game, you know me, I'd get the standard version, I'd roll it on skill alone, just cause that's part of my ethic. You know, that's me. But I also know that my mental makeup is kind of geared toward repetition, and that not everyone has the patience for that. I'm picturing the scene where, like, a kid has a credit card already logged in the system, or someone weak-willed with predilections towards spur-of-the-moment decisions is going to end up having a rough time of it one day, and then they buy a box, just one, what's the harm, and then they get shit because it is randomized. But they fool themselves into thinking that what they need is just going to be in the next box over, and each individual one is cheap enough, right? So they just keep going, and then whammo. They've emptied their wallet. I feel I have to show some integrity. I said I would stop supporting them, and I meant it. They clearly did not work to earn the excuses I gave them. It felt weird enough to do the first time. I actually considered taking Mordor off of my channel because of that. I don't want the question hovering over me as to whether or not supporting this series, especially if I'm the one hyping it up, is going to lead to someone being drawn into a snare that causes them to harm themselves. And frankly, just in general, that question should be nowhere near my bloody leisure time. So fuck you, Warner Bros., for doing that. Alright, Sam, that's all well and good, but why then didn't you have a replacement series ready to go? Well, the one that I had my eyes on is download only, and I'm currently applying for a credit card, and I want to wait until I got that in the mail. That way I can start making big boy purchases for the channel with my own cash, rather than sending the bill to me out-of-state mum every so often, you know? I feel that's just an important step in a lot of ways. I expect I'll have it up next week. The title itself is this neat-looking game called Hob from Runic Games. I got a preview of this alongside Pyre at PAX East, and I missed that it came out in September, and I missed that. It's got a cute protagonist, a world that looks similar to Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy, and similar aesthetics to games like Bastion or Journey, and I'm actually really excited to start exploring all the colorful environments and things, and just experience that same kind of wonder of what's around the next corner, like I used to feel in the old school platformers. Okay then, if you haven't fallen asleep, that was all Item 1. Item 2 involves a change to my schedule. I'm shifting from every day to 4 days out of the week. Trying to restore my buffer turned out to be a lot more taxing than I thought. I try to keep a month-long buffer going, just in case of life events, but in order to get it back to full, I have to churn out 8 episodes to make up for the 7 that I put out a week to regenerate that buffer, and what ended up happening is I ended up outpacing my energy and even what my computer could handle. And it's starting to make me, like, try to push more and make kind of try to rush getting the content out there. I even put up a 2-hour episode of Horizon Zero Dawn just because I didn't know where to cut it, and I thought I had to keep that series moving since I've been at it for almost a year now. What's more, adhering so doggedly to my current schedule kind of leaves me no time for anything else. I get home from work, and I usually have to do a chore or two, but then I just, like, get so mentally blah that I just want to sit there and veg out and watch vids. And there are probably more adult-type things I should be considering, like getting a car or, I don't know, seeing about promotions and things like that. I should probably be making the effort to attend more social type events, getting out there, meeting people. And, you know, there are other kinds of media that I still want to be able to support, like books or anime or webcomics. Heck, there are even games I could probably play for myself that don't involve the channel, so that I don't have to worry about constantly keeping you guys in the loop. Part of why I thought I had to run the channel the way I was doing was because I need to get my content out there, and a lot of it to get attention, especially given how I tend to kind of block myself from self-promoting. And the other part is that there are so many good games out there, so many awesome things that deserve attention and recognition and love, and I wanted to be able to touch on all the ones that I really cared about, and all the neat new titles coming out that play with interesting concepts. But after a wake-up call in which the power went out and some conferring with Maxwell, I realized that that's simply not a realistic standard to set for myself. So, it's like first I get to the point where I can make it a job, then I put out content like crazy. If I try to do it in reverse, it's just gonna burn me out. So my plan at this point is to let my current buffer run its course until Friday, November 10th, and at that point the new schedule will take over, and I'll start doing Monday to Thursday. At that point, all my current series are probably going to get majorly jumbled around in terms of time slots, so sorry about that, I can't say for sure where everything's going to end up. In the meantime, I'll be working to try to get that new buffer ready, so that I can have at least 4 weeks, between me and any random things that life might try to throw at me. But I'm not going to drive myself crazy trying to get it done. I want this to be my career, but I can't let it turn into work, otherwise, I'm not going to be able to share that legit joy that games are supposed to be able to bring. Not going to be able to share that with my audience. But at least it should be easier to manage than the previous standard. So yeah, that's the plan. Finding peace within myself and balancing my work-life schedule. If this channel is ever going to grow, it's gotta be slow and steady that wins the race. Not over-caffeinated, anxiety-ridden hair thinking it can take a shortcut through the freeway at rush hour. So I apologize in advance if you want to keep up to date on a particular series and it starts hopping all over the place. I anticipate a bit of an adjustment and experimental period when the change takes effect. If you stuck around this long, I hope you can bear with me until we get it all stabilized. So, thank you all for tuning in. Please comment and subscribe if you want to see future content. And remember, you all have the potential to get good. Peace out.